When I get my clients, our nutrition is so simple that all they have to do is follow what I send them. And I tell them, I'm like, hey, I keep my nutrition so simple because I want to focus on the real transformation, which is in here. I just go all in on mindset. I think when most people come into a training or nutrition program, they think outcome, and then they never address identity most times. You got to start with identity because then it becomes part of who you are. It just so happens that if you do the process, you also get the outcome that you're after.
Like, you got to empower people to live their best life. Will you put in the daily habits every single day that allows you to live for them to the fullest? And when you start looking at life through that lens, you can't help but change how you're spending your time, what you're focusing on, and what your goals and aspirations. Joe, what's up, my man?
What's going on, brother? How are you?
You had to drop off your kids at school prior to coming here, which totally jacked up our lifting plans, man.
Yeah, I know.
However, what do you have going on after the podcast?
After the podcast, nothing.
I did save sumo deadlifts.
Okay.
So we can do some sumo deadlifts if you're willing.
We can get some sumos. I didn't do legs last week, so I need to do something.
Hey, well, perfect. I'm glad I didn't do them.
Yeah, there you go.
Glad I didn't do them. So this is awesome because most of my podcasts, as we described beforehand, are remote. You're local to me here, so we just had to do a round 2 podcast in person. I don't remember do you remember what episode it was that I had you on?
I don't remember what episode it was.
A couple months ago.
Yeah.
It was
a couple months ago. And I got some good messages from it too. So I must have said something that was.
Must have said something.
But yeah, it was a couple months ago.
But now, shortly after that aired, you hit me up on email and you're like, hey, man, I want to do another one because there's been a lot of changes in my life since then.
Yeah.
So let's pull the curtain back on that. First of all, anybody that wants to dive deeper into your backstory, listen to that first episode. But now, bring us up to speed. What's going on?
Yeah, so kind of I was telling you off air, and the thing that changed for me is I think a lot of coaches might lose sight of why they do what they do, and we get so caught up in the business side of things. We get so caught up in monetary things, and we forget the impact that we're making. And for me, last time on the pod, I was saying, yeah, I think I'm done with coaching. I've lost my passion for it. I'm going to go this other route. And, so I made this post and I started talking about the last keto camp that I'm going to do, because that was a front end program that I ran it's a 21-day challenge. It's completely free, because I think when it comes to servicing people, there's a lot of fake coaches out there, and there's a lot of bait and switches out there. And that's a common question that I get. Like, is it really free? But it's a chance to get to earn trust, and it's a chance to get people to transform before they ever think about spending money with me. And anyways, long story short, I had posted that this was going to be the last one ever, because I was going a different direction. I didn't feel like I was making an impact in the community anymore. And, I got super emotional because when I started posting about it, there was people that I had not talked to since I'd been running the program like 3-4 years ago that were sending me testimonials and how much it changed their life and how they would love to do another one just to be part of it. And to be honest with you, that thing saved not only my mental well-being, but it also saved my business. Because the business was going in a direction that I wasn't happy with. I had a lot of things that happened with the business. But it just reminded me of the impact that I was making. And it just sparked the coaching part of me again, which I had been losing. And now since then, I've just been on fire about it. And, it's funny how things work out, because I know that we talked about the company, Nutritional Coaching Institute, and my role with them. Well, the role that I had was kind of just like an intern, just kind of just hanging around and helping out any way that I could, because it was a company that changed my life. And, I was just talking to coaches and being myself and giving feedback and saying, hey, I see this. Because I've been running a business for about 10 years. 2 years of it was at Anytime Fitness. 6 years of it was at the gym. And then 4 years of it is kind of like a combo with KLD and the gym. Mm-hmm. And, I started talking to them and wanting to change them. And then it's like, hey, what do you think about being in charge of the coaching department? Because of how much you're willing to help other coaches and do this and do that. And so it was really heartwarming. Because now I'm on the other side of it and I get to see that there are good coaches out there and that there are people who want to make an impact. Cause like we talked about off air, there's people who don't. And it's purely just, oh, you can make money online and I don't have to do this and I could create my own schedule and I could automate stuff. And those aren't good coaches to me. I think being a coach, you know this because I think you coach people, right?
Yeah, I've been coaching since I think 2016.
Yeah, yeah.
Good while.
And you know, I think we do it and we don't know what we're really signing up for. And it's not just, hey, do this workout, hey, do this nutrition plan. Like you're a therapist, you're a sounding board, and as a coach, and maybe it's just me, but you feel what they feel.
Yeah.
And you want to be part of that and you want to help them through. And you know, like even people who come to me and they have alcohol problems, they have marriage, not saying I'm a counselor, right? Like don't get that. Like I tell them, hey, this is my opinion because I have been divorced. My family has struggled with addiction. A lot of my family members were alcoholics. So it's like, I'm not giving the perspective of, hey, I'm a therapist. It's more so like, this is my experience with it. And this is what I suggest.
Yeah.
But I always make sure to let them know, hey, this is not my profession, but here's something that I can see from the outside that maybe you can't. And we don't know that we're signing up for that, but then we get those messages of, hey, I haven't had a drink for 14 days or 3 months or whatever. Or, hey, I was going through this divorce, but just this reignited my self-esteem. And now I'm actually staying in my relationship because I see things clearer or just whatever it is. So yeah, that was a long-winded story, but that's kind of what's been happening.
Yeah, I think I've been, like I said, coaching since 2016. And when I signed up to start coaching, it's like, man, I'm going to help people with their macros, get them dialed in with a training routine. And then like I had a client call the other day and we talked for an hour about a struggling relationship with his wife, and like it was all about that, not about macros.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, why do people trust me with this information in the first place? And why do they feel compelled to tell me? I'm honored and grateful that they do trust me in order to open up like that. But I feel like a nutrition coach, a training coach, like you're meeting them where they're at with like a baseline fundamental goal and responsibility. Because I mean, people are going to live their best life if they're doing so with a healthy body. And then when you're that like front line point of contact for something that's so, necessary to go through the rest of life with, it's like, okay, what else does this mean for everything else in my life? It all bleeds into one another. It all transcends the sport itself. And I think that's good. I feel like it because like especially when people are dieting down, you're cutting macros, they're getting hungry. They have to like dig deep for that why.
Yeah.
It makes them ask those hard questions. And it's like, okay, why am I doing this? Who am I doing it for? What is this impacting? Who is this impacting? And like, you're getting all that. Because like if they're stressed out because of work, but they're hungry, they're more likely to binge on something they shouldn't.
Yeah.
Like you're the front line of contact there.
And they're coming to us at their worst. Like most time, like they might be financially successful or maybe even have a good family life, but they also know that within that family life, they may not be around that much longer or whatever they tell themselves, right? Like there's a reason that they're coming to us and it's not because they're at their peak, sometimes it could be, right? Maybe you have, I don't work with this, but I see coaches who work with like bodybuilders, for example, right? And I think you do as well. And it's just they come to you and they got it down and they just want to die down. But then a majority of at least my people, they're at their worst. They're at the lowest of the low, and then they're coming to me and you and being like, hey, like help me not be at my worst. And kind of to the why. The way that I position it for my clients is remember the pain. Right. Like the why will get you started, but the pain is what keeps you going. Cause it's like, oh, I want to be around for my kids. I want to have more energy. I want to do this. I want to do that. That's the why. And that's a good thing. But what's the pain? What are you not doing in your life right now because of the pain that you're in? Right. Like I had a lady and I this was the first time I heard it. And so it really stuck out to me. She's like, I can't even shave my legs, Joe. because I can't even bend down properly, and I can't, like, I have to look over my rolls, and that's her words, not mine. I have to look over my rolls to even see, and I'm missing a bunch of spots. And how do I know? Because my husband's telling me, and it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
And so one of her wins, fast forward a couple months, was her being able to do that. And she didn't tell me that prior. She told me that after the fact, that she's like, I was having to do this, this, and this. And, and I just say, like, the pain is what keeps you going. And I think even in business and in careers or whatever it is, and I always use a career as a starting point. Like, why do you show up to work every day? Because of the pain of what happens if you don't. Like, nobody wants to go to work every single day. There's parts of our jobs where it's like, man, I just want to stay home with my kids. I just want to do this. I just want to stay home and watch movies all day with them, or whatever it is. And then it's, why show up? Because if I don't, well, then I don't have electricity to watch this movie, and I don't have a reason to show, or I can't get them what they want, or whatever it is.
There's a couple different directions I want to take this.
Yeah.
Let's start with like the landscape of coaching in general. So you kind of alluded to the fact that a lot of people are not in the coaching space for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Maybe in the online space, it's different. I think in person, there's probably a little bit more love for it. 'Cause I mean, if you're training people in person or something, you got to be up early. You got to stay late. I remember my gym days of 4 a.m. in the morning, 9 p.m. at night, getting home, doing it again and again.
And it's real. It's tangible.
It's
like
tangible.
People say things in, comment sections that they wouldn't say in person.
Correct.
And
I think with the online world, so we'll talk mostly about that, because that's mostly what I do now. Well, it's actually all that I do now. I don't coach in person. But I think with online, it's just such a low barrier to entry. And, you have these, we'll call them gurus out there, talking about how much money you can make and this and that. And, they come in and that's all they're focused on. And I've had conversations with coaches where I'm like, look, are you creating a coaching program? Are you creating a course? Like, what are you doing? Because this isn't going to help anybody. And so I think that a lot of people get into it. The cool thing is, now I see the other side of it. And the people that I've been talking to recently, they just want to make an impact. And that's heartwarming to me, because the view that I had on the industry was not a good one. But the unfortunate part is, those are the quiet ones.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that are super loud and talk the most, or I think a lot of people get into it for monetary gain. It's a low barrier of entry, and they don't, God forbid you send your coach a text message. It's all, oh, send it in my app, and then maybe I'll get back to it in 24 to 48 hours. Are you a coach, or like, what are you doing? You know?
Yeah, it's funny, man. Like when I hired my first coach way back in the day, like I didn't know what was expected. Mm-hmm. And I would get like one email a week response before there was all the apps. It was like one email a week response with just like macro targets for the week. Like that's pretty much it. Yep. And I'm like, man, this is definitely not very intensive. Certainly not very customizable. And so many people just do like cookie cutter programs, and they just send them that. And it's just like a PDF that they blast out to everybody.
Yep.
But they'll market it as like custom individualized coaching. So it's very misleading. And for me, like I started coaching because I kind of developed my own protocol with a ketogenic framework that nobody else was doing. So I felt like, okay, I've developed it. Let me give it to people in a coaching format and work with them and just lead them through this. But it was always like my love for the people. And I see so many coaches doing it for the wrong reasons. And what's frustrating, I think like the best litmus test any potential client looking for coaches can go through is like, okay, look at their content over the last 6 months, the last year, the last however many years they've been coaching or putting out content. Is it pretty consistent? Mm-hmm. Or is it like jumping from one trend to the next?
Yeah.
And you see this run rampant in the carnivore keto space. You've got like these little hypes and trends. You got people jumping off of keto when the keto bubble bursts. You got people jumping into carnivore. Now you're starting to see people jump out of carnivore because that bubble is on the burst. And it's like, if you, like we were saying off air, I'm all for evolving, learning, educating yourself, and, adapting as you learn more. But like if you're all in on one concept and then 6 months later you're preaching a message that's 180 degrees different,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, you're probably not in it for the right reason, because you can't be truly like bought in on something to the extent where that's like everything, and then 6 months later it's something totally different. Like it doesn't work that way.
It doesn't. I mean, and you're, I mean, and like you said, we were talking about it off air. You'll have coaches that were even having a lot of success in that place, and they're talking about, oh man, I love helping people with this, and then it's like, oh, the bubble's bursting. Let me jump to this thing, and oh, the bubble's bursting on this. Let me jump to this thing. And it's like, what do you actually stand for? You know, like what are your principles and values? Because if you have one of the quotes that I love, and I forget where I heard it from, but if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything. And
Yep.
so if you're not standing for something, you're going to fall to the next trend, and you're no better than the clients that are coming to you and asking for help. And like I was telling you, I was that coach too. And when I opened my gym, we opened it with keto. And I mean, it was cool because like we had grocery stores coming to us and saying, hey, how can we service your people better, because all the MCT oil is gone, all the, you know. And so they literally, it was Natural Grocers. They came to us and they had an end cap, and it was for the gym, and it was all of the keto stuff that I recommended.
Nice.
So it was really cool. And you know, I knew the manager. He was never a client, but he came in and, you know, talked to us, and it's like, how can I serve you guys? It's a benefit to each other. And so that was cool. And then, you know, the franchise, they were going in a direction of protein and calories. And
This is the gym franchise.
this is the gym franchise. And they were going that direction. And so I started listening to all the noise and like, oh, this is going to be, and I jumped ship to that. And I tried to be passionate about it and say, oh no, you know, you don't need to do keto. You don't need to do that. And you don't, but you know, it was something that I truly believed in, because that's what I lost almost 100, or actually all of my weight on 100 pounds. And so when I implemented it, people would have results for the short term, but it wouldn't last. And there's this thing that I think of, and it's like, some of us just need hard rules.
Yeah.
And some of us, it's the way that I frame it is, it's easier to say no to the basket of chips than it is to see how many you can fit into your macros. Because you know, most people, what are they going to do? They're going to eat the whole basket.
Yeah.
So,
I feel like it's funny, man. Like all of my content's obviously around the ketogenic diet.
mhm.
And the keto favor has kind of fallen out of the limelight since probably 2019, I think, is when it peaked via Google Trends.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you look at what a ketogenic diet and lifestyle is at its core, it is eating real food, being, you know, able to metabolize fat as a fuel substrate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, that's what we're supposed to be able to do as a species.
Yep.
So it's like, as the trends come and go, this from like a sheer biological standpoint is pretty solid. You know, like there doesn't need to be a reason to try and reinvent the wheel here. You know, like it may be called something different, but like ketogenic is a metabolic state, and that's science. And there's no reason to think of that as a trend. It's like, look, it is what it is, and it works.
Yeah. And you know, it's crazy because I'll have people who comment on my stuff every once in a while. And I know you get this, but it's like, keto's bad for you. And my rebuttal to that is always, so you're telling me that real food is bad for you?
Yeah.
Like, how are you going to tell me that the stuff that was put on this earth for us is all of a sudden bad for us? Like, you can say, and we can go down this rabbit hole if you want to, but even plants, what are they trying to do? They're literally trying to defend themselves and kill us in a way. Now, I'm not saying you don't have to give up your plants and do all that stuff, but it's more so the stuff that's actually good for us is the stuff that's demonized.
Yeah.
And then you look at our medical system as a whole, and it's like, if you look at all the things that they demonize, well, where do most of our dollars go to? The healthcare system.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, man, you have all of this healthcare stuff, when if you just fix the root of the problem, you don't need this. But if you can demonize, like salt, saturated fat, cholesterol, all the things, red meat, all the stuff that is crucial for our brain. And another rebuttal that I always have is like, oh, saturated fat's bad for you. I'm like, oh, the stuff that's in breast milk, that's really important for our kids' brain development when they're young, like that's all of a sudden bad for you? Like,
I mean, infants are pretty much born in a ketonic state.
yes.
You know, there's higher lactose. So I mean, there's some sugars there for
Yeah.
sure, but like breast milk's pretty ketonic, you know? So
Exactly.
we're pretty much born in ketosis for the most part, for all intents and purposes. And then society jacks us up.
Yes.
You know? And I made a post the other day and it's like, let's just take a very biological stance here. So we're born in a ketonic state. Breast milk is relatively ketogenic. And then you look at the biology of a human being, you know, we're monogastric species. We don't have a rumen. We don't have a 4-chambered stomach. We're not designed to ferment vegetation like that of a cow or a deer. We can't upregulate the nutrition in grass like those species can. So like that, to me, from a biological standpoint, is pretty good indicator that the primary source of our nutrition shouldn't come from plant matter. Not to say you can't eat plant matter, but that shouldn't be like the staple.
Correct.
And then you look at the pH and the acidity of our stomach. It's like it's pretty much on par with that of vultures and carnivorous animals. So like, again, not to say that we are exclusively carnivorous, because we're not, but it's like, okay, if we have a pH that is like that much acidity, we should probably be leveraging that to break down fats and proteins and bone matter. And it's like, you start putting all these pieces together. It's like, from a sheer biological standpoint, you can't really make a good argument that we should be primarily consuming plants as our staple, or, you know, hyperpalatable processed junk food. Like, we're adaptable as a species and we can get away with anything. But like, rather than looking through life through the lens of what can I get away with, let's ask, what can I optimize for, you know?
Yeah. And sometimes people need to come to that own realization, and it takes a special person to be willing to do it. And so, like, one of the protocols we have, and I always put my clients through it because I think it's important to go through at least a couple times a year, but it's like a gut reset, and it's essentially just a carnivore diet, right? No nuts, no plants, no nothing, just meat. And, you know, I do like olive oils and certain fats, butter, cream, all that stuff. But they always say, oh my gosh, I feel amazing. Like, I haven't felt like this in a long time. Can I keep doing no carbs? Is that okay? I'm like, if you want to, you know, but I think people need to, there was a quote that I heard and I forget. It's so easy to stay sick because you don't know how good healthy feels yet. But once you come to that other side, it's really hard to want to go against that. You know, like, we'll have people who are crushing their plan, go on vacation, and then they can't wait to get back on their plan because of how crappy it made them feel. Now, enjoy your vacation, do your thing, have that food, like, you know, have your drinks, whatever it is. And then you come back and you're excited to get back on it because of how you feel. And I do believe that it's the state that we're supposed to live in. And again, there's so much noise out there that you think that, oh, you know, plants are the best thing for you, grains are the best thing for you, processed food, everything in moderation. And we could go down that rabbit hole too, if you want, but that's one that I thoroughly don't agree with.
The everything in moderation stance?
The stance of the reason that, and I've seen coaches literally say this, the reason that you're fat is because you try to take these types of foods away. And the foods that they're talking about are not whole foods. Yeah. They're talking about junk food. Oh, you overeat on processed food because you're not including it in your diet. Well, I don't know about you, but on your busiest, most stressful, most chaotic day, and you're someone who has a problem with junk eating, what do you think you're going to do if it's in the house and your normal thing is to stress eat? Do you think you're going to, well, get the snack sizes. Do you think you're going to have one snack size bag, or do you think you're going to have multiple snack size bags? Like, you're not fixing the root of the problem. You're just medicating it. That's like sorry, I'm getting on a tangent here. That's like telling a drug addict, saying, hey, keep drugs in the house. Just don't have them, but keep them in the house. And if you do have them, just have a little bit at a time. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's weird with the addiction thing. Like, I think that's a perfect analogy. Like, you look at somebody that's an alcoholic, you know, drug addict. I mean, food is an addiction for sure. Yeah. And people that have been addicted to food don't need that explained to them. Like, it's perfectly clear to them.
Correct.
But society views it very differently because we all eat food and it's all a requirement, a necessity for life. Yeah. So, like, for that reason, there's all these like levels as to how deep you want to go. But I am a big advocate for the eliminate rather than moderate approach. I mean, like you said, you wouldn't tell an alcoholic to just have one beer and moderate it. You know? Like, you just wouldn't do that.
Correct.
And for people that struggle with certain foods, certain cravings, it's like you probably shouldn't do that either. I think the problem is that like a lot of people want to, turn their nose up to this concept of good food and bad food. And this is really prevalent in the, flexible dieting space.
Mm.
And like, I'm not against the flexible dieting space. Like I've modeled some things after it, and a lot of natural bodybuilders leverage that diet and they've made it work for them.
Yeah.
So more power to them.
100%.
But I don't think there's anything wrong with classifying food as good or bad. I think that's honestly probably a necessary thing, especially in today's environment where there is so much legitimate bad food.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have taken the stance for me personally that like all this hyperpalatable processed, drive through junk food and candy and just crap, like it's not even food.
Yeah.
Like I don't put food in the same sentence as that stuff. It's just trash. It's
Correct.
toxin. It's like poison.
Yep.
And like some people be like, that's a very poor outlook on it. But I'm like, why? Like it's not serving me. Why would I think of it anything other than negative? And like if it's toxin in my mind, I'm not really prone to want to eat it.
Correct.
So that's what's worked for me.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. And don't get me wrong, like you said, there's that approach does work for some people. Like there was a client that I worked with a long time ago. Her name was Michelle, and I always remember her because she had to be like 4'7", little cute thing. She was at my gym, and she'd always be like, "Joe, I had my cheat meal," and I'm like, "What'd you do?" And she's like, "I had my one bite of cheesecake." Talk about like sticking to it. That's tough to do, right? I can't have one bite of cheesecake. I'm having multiple cheesecakes. But for her, that was her thing, and that worked for her. Same thing with my clients. Like we call it memory days. And the way that I position, if you're going to go off plan, when I say make it worth it, that doesn't mean go eat like everything you can. It's just like, don't have an Oreo just because you're like, if you're going to do it, make it a memorable day. It was a birthday. It was an anniversary. You went on vacation. You did, but don't just, oh, it's Tuesday. Let me eat some pizza. Yeah. Right. Like, and that approach. And again, I think it does a lot of people wrong. And whenever I do workshops or presentations, I always ask the people questions. And I'm like, let me know if you've tried this. Let me know if you tried this. And I'm like, did it work for you? And they're like, no. And it might have worked in the short term, but didn't work long term because it wasn't fixing the root of what everyone's issue is, which is you're addicted to this. Mm-hmm. And just to kind of to that point, my mom is a drug and alcohol counselor. And I've been really fascinated with the psychology of things. So like now when I get my clients, our nutrition is so simple that all they have to do is follow what I send them. I just go all in on mindset now. Like everything that I talk to, everything every single day is about rewiring the person at the core. Like that's my main focus. And I tell them, I'm like, hey, I keep my nutrition so simple because I want to focus on the real transformation, which is in here. And anybody who's gone through a coaching process knows that it's in your head. And, so my mom is a drug and alcohol counselor. And one day she sent me all of her coursework for the groups that she runs. And again, these are people, what is it? Opioids? I think it's how you say it. Alcohol, hard drugs, cocaine, heroin, all of these things. And I was looking at it, I'm like, Mom, these symptoms that I'm seeing right here and the way that their behaviors are, I can replace this with food and it would be the same thing, the tendencies. And my most recent workshop that I did, I just went to I think it's like Mayo Clinic or something. And I just drug symptoms and tendencies. And I did that. I changed the word drugs with food, not letting my people know that as they go through this presentation that I was going to say, I was like, how many of us think that food is an addiction? And of course everyone's like, yes. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, let me, in case you didn't think so, let's go through this. And I was like, how many of you have done this? How many of you have done this? And it was literally, again, I just replaced the word drug with food. And they're like, oh, I've done that. And then at the very end, I say, this is what it was from. Yeah. And it was from the tendencies of drug addicts. And it's like, oh.
Do you feel like there's a prevalent demographic of people in the health and nutrition space that don't view food as an addiction?
100%. There's no way because either that, it's two parts. I think that they aren't familiar with it. Like they don't really, maybe they haven't been around it. Like I said, maybe it's a blessing, maybe it's not, but I've been around drug addicts my whole life. And I see the tendencies. I see the damage that it causes. I see how it, like, what people will do just to get that high. And you know, so I have a different viewpoint of it where I can see it clear as day. I think when people say that it's not an addiction and they try to say, and you probably agree with this, everyone talks about being in a calorie deficit, right? But nobody says, like, oh, you're fat, because they say you're fat because you overeat, but no one talks about why we overeat. And I think we need to start having that conversation. I think a lot of people who say it's not an addiction, you're not eating sugar out of the bag, blah, 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 blah. They're not familiar with how addiction works.
Yeah.
Or they're not studying it. And all you got to do is study tendencies, study psychology, study addiction, and you'll quickly come to the realization, like, oh man, I am addicted to this food. And it's like the same thing with diet sodas. There's a client that I worked with. She's like, oh man, I'm really missing my diet soda. And I'm like, well, don't you think that that's keeping the addiction alive? Like, don't you think that you're going to keep craving sugar? Because if you're missing your diet soda, you're going to keep craving the sugar. You're just medicating for the bigger problem at play.
Yeah, that's why, like, for me and most people I work with, we take like a very, flip the switch, rewrite the script, and like totally get behind, like the cheesecake. Like, my wife makes a bomb keto cheesecake.
Yeah.
Like, it leaves me wanting nothing. Like, I don't think a normal carb-laden cheesecake would be able to hold a candle to it. Like, it's that good. But because I eat it, I can eat it without guilt because I know it's not deviating me from the lifestyle that I've chosen.
Exactly.
Now, I don't eat it every day.
Yeah.
Like, I'll have that on special occasions, but I'm able to satisfy that desire without ever deviating from the life path that I've chosen. And like the soda drink, soft drink example, like Zevia, like a Zevia is a equivalent in my mind. Like, I don't even remember what a normal Coke tastes like, but the Zevia Cokes taste pretty freaking good to me.
It tastes really good.
They check that box for me. Like, there's literally a ketogenic alternative to everything. And you want to make sure that you are following a well-formulated ketogenic diet. Yeah. But like, if you having a Zevia or a keto cheesecake or something sweetened with a little bit of stevia or erythritol or monk fruit allows you to like bridge that gap and make it more sustainable, then freaking rock and roll,
100%.
Because I always tell people it's better to be, 90%, 100% of the time than to be 100%, 10% of the time.
Yeah.
And so many people get hung up on like doing one thing perfectly that they can't possibly sustain it. But like, life is a spectrum, like what spectrum works for your lifestyle with this chapter in your life as it is, with all the distractions and stressors and, responsibilities you have. What can you sustain at this point pretty effortlessly? And the thing is, it's like, it requires effort, but after you do it for enough time and you see the benefits and the fruits of your labor, like, it's not really effort at that point. It's just habit. It's habitual. Like, I train pretty much every day, and it doesn't really take effort for me to train.
It's
like,
just who you are.
Part of the day. Same thing with brushing teeth. Same thing with putting your shoes on. Like, my 3-year-old hates brushing his teeth. He hates putting shoes on. He hates wiping his butt when he's done at the toilet. But like, it takes effort for him, and he does it because he needs to be doing it. But like, that's not something that I have to take a second thought towards.
Exactly.
Like, it just happens, and people, like, if they put good habits into place and they see the fruits of that labor, it's going to be the same thing for them.
Yeah. And I think if people, and I try my best to get our clients to focus on that. And that's like the initial program that I have. Like, I'll talk about nutrition like the first 3 calls, right? Like the first whatever, like, oh yeah, metabolism and periodization and this and that. And then it goes straight into mindset and trying to change their identity. So there's like a 3-step process that I take. And I think when most people come into a training or nutrition program, they think outcome, then they think, okay, what do I have to do to get that outcome? And then they never address identity most times, right? Whereas I try to tell them, like, no, you have to, who is it that you want to become? You got to start with identity, because then it becomes part of who you are and you don't have to think about it, right? Like you said, just like even my kids, I have to brush your teeth. For us, hopefully, you just go and do it. You don't really think, like, when you're going to bed, I brush my teeth. When I wake up, you don't think about it. That's identity, right? And so if you could start with, who is it that I want to become? Okay, cool. Now, what is the process that you have to take to become that person? What are the things that you're doing? So like when I tell my clients, I say, hey, the purpose of this process is, yeah, we have the outcome, but that's the like GPS. You're just like, oh, here's how I have to go, but you might have a couple detours on the way there. But it's the process of creating the identity. What are the things that you have to do on a daily basis to create the person you want to be? And then it just so happens that if you do the process, you also get the outcome that you're after. And so it's like I try to flip that from how most people start, which is like, I want to lose 20 pounds. And then to lose 20 pounds, I have to follow this diet. Okay, well, what happens when let's just say you do lose that 20 pounds? If you didn't change your identity, you're going to go right back to what you were doing before. Think about how many people have had weight loss surgery, or now the thing is GLP-1s. And again, I'm not like knocking those. I hope that people do them to save their life, but you're still that person.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't address the root of why you need to take that drug or why you needed to have that weight loss surgery, the capacity of your stomach or the blunting of your appetite is not going to fix the problem. Right. And so it's addressing the identity piece and really getting the clients to focus on that. And then all the other stuff makes sense. But that's why I always tell them, like, you want to get to a point where it feels weird to go off plan.
Yeah.
Right now, most people, they go off plan. They don't even think about it. Right. Most people. My mission is like, they're like, and this is where other coaches come in. Oh, you feel guilt around food. Not talking about real food. They're talking about junk food. You feel guilt around that. You shouldn't feel guilt. I think you should, because and I told you I'm a godly man. I think that God is saying, hey, there's this guilt that you're feeling because you know it's not the right decision.
It's a vice.
It's
a vice. Like eating junk food in my mind is like the same as I would look at, drinking by yourself behind closed doors, looking at porn. Like, it's not serving you or humanity. It's not living your best life. And for that reason, you shouldn't, gravitate towards it.
Correct.
We do, because we're flawed humans and we're weak and we don't have the mental resolve, but like, that's something that can be trained. That's something that can be, grown from. So 100%. I like the identity piece. I want to dive into that. So I'm going to make a post later today about identity. I want people to identify as a bodybuilder. I think people need to identify as a bodybuilder. So I'm going to make a Venn diagram. And on one side, you got the general population. You look at the stats of the general population, it's pretty bleak, pretty abysmal.
Yeah.
You got morbid obesity. You've got, I think, greater than 50% overweight, probably more than 50%.
Well, I think it's 50% obese now. And they were saying that was supposed to happen in 2030. And now it's like, if you just, again, not pass judgment, I think this is why we're trying to solve this problem. You just walk on the street and it kind of looks like that.
Yeah.
So
you stand in front of a Walmart parking lot, it definitely looks like
definitely
that.
looks like that.
But you've got, the obesity. I mean, it's got like the years of America where the graph gets more red. Like, we've all seen that graph. It's pretty downward spiral. And then you've got, Alzheimer's, dementia rates on the climb. You've got people that have all kinds of visceral fat. Everything's just going south.
Yeah.
And then you've got the other circle in that Venn diagram is going to be competitive bodybuilders, people that are actually competing in the sport, where they have the very extreme fat loss phases. They got the posing trunks, the tan, like the extreme end. All right. In the middle, you've got bodybuilding as a lifestyle. Because if you look at what competitive bodybuilders do, apart from the tanning and posing and things very specific to that sport on a competitive basis, it's eating quality food, exercise, prioritizing sleep, like basic fundamental things that everybody would benefit from. And you see that like clear as day in the sport of bodybuilding, in the lifestyle of bodybuilding.
Yep.
Like, if you want to improve people's health, you get them healthy by eating right food and moving their body and building and preserving lean tissue. So if everybody just simply viewed themselves, identified as a bodybuilder, that it's not to say that you have to take it to the next level and compete.
Yeah.
But like, live as a bodybuilder lives. Like, put an emphasis on the food that you put in your body. Track it if you need to. If you're not happy with where you're at in life and you're trying to control the variables and get that dialed in, like, actually track your intake. What can be measured can be managed. But like, live as a bodybuilder, identify as a bodybuilder. Like, there's no question that of all the different sports out there, the sport of competitive bodybuilding, those athletes have mastered the art of losing as much body fat and holding on to as much muscle during a fat loss phase as possible.
Yep.
That's what everybody would benefit from doing. So if we identified as bodybuilders and that became ingrained into our being, we would all improve, period. And again, that's not to say you have to take it to the extreme of actually competing with it, but identify as a bodybuilder and act accordingly.
Yeah, there's a story that I like to tell, and it was of a guy who lost 100 pounds, and I think it was from a Tony Robbins book. Um, but he said that there was a guy, and what he did was he just identified as I think he said, because he was a very religious person, he said trash can or temple, and it was like that part. And then there's another gym story that the guy, he wasn't an athlete, he didn't compete, he didn't play football, he didn't do anything, but he's like, what would an athlete do?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And kind of to your bodybuilding point, that's essentially what we're all doing, is whether we're taking it to the extreme or not, we're building our body. And it could be building obesity, or it could be building a lean physique, or whatever it is, but that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I think if people did take that approach and just like, I think the word, people are like, oh, bodybuilder, I'm going to be buff and ripped. No, like bodybuilding is what we're all doing in some way. We're either building it in the wrong direction or we're building it in the right direction.
100%, man. And I say that same thing at so many of these conferences I speak at. I speak at a bunch of conferences in the keto space where the general population is like, where the general demographic at these conferences is like middle-aged males and females that are overweight, that have been eating a standard American diet their whole life. They've come into this knowledge of the ketogenic diet, ancestral eating, and, mitigating against excessive blood sugar. And they're like, okay, I'm totally going to buy into it. And they have me speak, and they can't relate with me because I'm like 34 years old, and I was at one point the leanest man alive, and I'm a pro bodybuilder. They're like, okay, I can't relate. That's not me. It doesn't apply. But it's like, look, people, do as I do, as bodybuilders do, and I guarantee you will build muscle and you will lose fat and you will improve your health.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to freaking get down to sub 5% body fat, put on posing trunks and get tanned up and step on stage.
Yeah.
But if you just simply live as a bodybuilder lives with an emphasis on these habits, you will reach the goal that you desire. Period, full stop, no questions asked.
Yeah, it's just running it through that filter. Like, I always tell my clients, I don't talk about my clients a lot. I don't know if that's normal or not.
It's good.
But I always tell them to say, what would the best version of you do? So if, let's just say their weight goal is 150 pounds, right? Just as an example, what would the 150 pound version of you do? And you just run it through that filter, right? So if you would take on the identity of a bodybuilder, I keep looking at yours, it says bodybuilding right there. But if you keep taking that identity, well, you're probably going to act like that person. And it's not to fake it till you make it. It's you're living it so you can become it, So yeah, I agree.
I had another epiphany this past weekend, and I'm going to make a post on this. I've just been like, I've had all kinds of creative thoughts.
You've been going crazy on it. I like it though.
Yeah, we're rolling, man.
Yeah.
But I got to thinking, and like the whole catalyst for this was like, okay, I'm putting out a very ultra niche message. Like I'm a natural competitive ketogenic bodybuilder, which is a pretty freaking narrow field of view.
Yeah.
Like pretty niche. But like I know that my messaging would benefit the masses.
Mm-hmm.
So like how do I get them to find what I'm speaking about relatable and applicable to them? And then I'm like, okay, what is it people desire in life? What is it people want? What is it that we all crave? Like the purpose of life is a pretty freaking deep question. Like that's one that we could talk around a campfire for hours on.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, okay, peace. We need peace. There's a lack of peace in the world. People crave peace. What generates peace? Well, the one resource that is finite is time. They're not making any more time. Time is passing. And I've discovered that the more confident I am in the fact that how I am spending my time is in complete alignment to how I'm supposed to be spending my time, the more peace I have. So peace comes from knowing that you are living the life you are supposed to with the time that you have. Okay. How do we do that? Well, I have this image of a pyramid in my mind. We are all born in a relative state of health, barring any type of genetic mutations or birth defects or something like that. We're pretty much born in a healthy state. It is our baseline primitive responsibility as a freaking human being to build upon that baseline measure of health. The problem is most people piss it away with societal norms. I mean, we're fed baby formula, we're fed candy, I mean, like people just go downhill pretty early on. But like we're born in a state of health. So like health should be the base of that pyramid structure. If you make health a priority, which is a basic responsibility, that's not something that you're doing in excess of what you should be doing. That's just like baseline primitive responsibility. Then everything else you do in life improves. And if you are healthy, by default, you're going to have relatively good habits, relatively good routines, relatively good structure to your life in and of itself by simply being healthy as a baseline. Once you've got that established, then you're going to be able to further, enhance your degree of self-confidence. You're going to figure out who you are. You can figure out what your passions are, what your skills are, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are. And if you're able to do all that stuff in a state of health, you're going to be better at them. Like if you're super passionate about freaking kayaking, I guarantee you kayaking is much more fun and enjoyable when you're not 300 pounds overweight. Like everything in life improves if you're healthy. As you figure out your passions and skill sets and strengths, your ability to make wealth improves. Your ability to provide improves. Your ability to figure out what your resources and assets are to a team improves. So your wealth is like the next. You got health, self-development, then wealth. As you accumulate more wealth, you're going to be able to provide better for your family. You'll be able to give the kids the life that you want for them and desire for them. You're going to be a better provider to your spouse or significant other. So above the wealth is the relationships in life. You're going to be able to provide your community better. Above that, you've got God. You've got serving a purpose bigger than yourself. And even if you don't believe in God, unless you're a self-absorbed asshole that thinks the world revolves around you, everyone's primary goal should be to serve.
Existing for others.
Yeah, existing for others. Because you're here, you're blessed with life. If you're listening to this podcast, you are a human being on this planet.
Yep.
And like your goal in life should be to leave the world a better place than you found it.
Yep.
And your ability to serve others, to serve your community, to serve your family, to serve God is going to be heightened if you're not super unhealthy. If you're passionate about having more years than your grandkids, you better damn well believe you can do so better if you're healthy.
Yes.
So like everything has to be built on that health as the fundamental baseline to that pyramid structure. But I feel like that's the messaging that I'm really going to start putting out going forward.
Yeah, and I love that because that's right on par with what I try to get across to my people, where I think we kind of live in this way where people don't know what they don't know, and so they think that they're providing their best, right? Like, oh man, I'm so tired, but I gave my grandkids my all, and I'm like, you think you gave them your all, but you don't know what your all is because you haven't lived that in a long time, and and you see that when it's like, you get those messages of people who do transform their health and they're like, my grandkids were trying to keep up with me, and that's a beautiful thing. And another client story that always sticks out kind of to your point of there's things that you're not doing with your life because of your health and then it affects others is there's a client who came in. This is when I owned my gym, but she's like, I was like, yeah, so what are your goals? And she's like, you know what, Joe, I'm just gonna be honest with you. I just want to be able to dance and garden again. And that's it. That's all she wanted in her life. She was older already, and one of my best moments was we used to throw end of the year parties and we danced together. And it was just so awesome to see. And it's a story that I tell all the time because I think to your point of the pyramid, like that's crucial because everything starts at a foundational level of health, but then it improves. And think about how many people, because of their self-consciousness, they don't go for that career upgrade. They don't go and chase that person that they like. They're just, I'm not worthy of that. Or, I don't deserve that. And I talk, my mom, she's a heavy woman. And she's nutrition coach, right? You think she would actually utilize me, but she doesn't.
Man, parents the hardest.
It really is.
My mom's totally on board now, but it took a while to get her there. But now she's hook, line, and sinker in.
Well, every time my mom comes and visits, she loses like 20 pounds. Like, and I don't have her track anything. She just eats what we eat, But there's things that she settles for in her life, whether it's relationships with douchebags, right? Sorry, clients for watching this. But they are. But she'll settle for that because of how she views herself. And there's people, and maybe you've experienced this, and I am not saying this is something I'm proud of. But a lot of people will divorce their spouse once they get healthy because they realize what they've been putting up with for years. And they're like, oh, my self-esteem has been so low for so long that I've been putting up with getting treated like crap. And now I don't, and it's not because they found someone else or they just come to this realization of like, I'm worth more than this.
Yeah.
And that leads into them getting a weight off of their shoulders and actually pursuing a life that I think that they really want to live.
Yeah. You gotta empower people to live their best life. Like one of the biggest cop-out things that frustrates me is people will say, oh, I'll die for my kids. Like I would take a bullet for my kids. It's like, yeah, me too. But would you live for your kids?
Bingo.
Like you're taking the lazy approach saying, yeah, I would, jump in front of a bullet from them. Yeah. But like, will you put in the daily habits every single day that allows you to live for them to the fullest? And when you start looking at life through that lens, you can't help but change how you're spending your time, what you're focusing on, and what your goals and aspirations are. Because it totally shifts the landscape. And that's what the world needs more of. People that feel drawn to living their best life and recognizing the simple fact that you're going to be able to provide, create, and serve others at a much higher capacity if you're not also battling diabetes or, shuffling up a flight of stairs, winded, or like morbidly obese and becoming a drain on society. And I'm not trying to, maybe I am shaming people a little bit, but I'm not trying to tell people, hey, look, you're hopeless, just throwing the towel now. It's like, look, once you know better, do better. Like I'm not trying to say, hey, look, what your past is defines you. I'm just saying, take this and run with it and recognize that you have so much more potential within you that I want you to be able to realize. Because when you realize it and your impact on the world improves, like that's freaking contagious, man.
Yeah. Well, there's two approaches that I want to take to that. One of them is the, like you said, you're not shaming people. And again, I know I go back to God all the time, but look at what Jesus was doing in the Bible. He everything that he did, he held people accountable. God holds people accountable, but it's in a corrective manner. It's not like to shame you. It's like, hey, I know that there's a better life for you out there, and I'm trying to lead you to it. But you got to want to follow it,
Yeah.
And then the other side of it is, I think people lose. So it's not enough to run away from something bad. You have to run towards something good. And that's why, like, addiction, alcoholism, food, like it's not enough to just say, I'm running away from this. We have to know what our compelling future is. Like, what is it that we're running towards, not just running away from? Because if we don't know what that compelling future is, it gets harder and harder to show up. And it's kind of like I talked about in the beginning, where even with my business, like I lost sight of what I was running towards, and I didn't have that compelling future. I was like, man, I'm not making an impact anymore. And then it's like, and I don't want to chase money. That's not a compelling future for me, because it just doesn't, like, I need it to provide, but it's just not a compelling future. And people will run towards a weight loss result, and that's it. Mm-hmm. Like, there's nothing compelling. And the example that I gave the other day, and I thought it was pretty good. You could tell me if it sucks, but everyone says that the weight is the most important thing, right? Like, I want to be 125 pounds. Well, if it's the most important thing, cut off an arm. You'll see what you want to see on scale. You'll drop 40, 50 pounds right then and there. Well, no, I want my arm. Okay, so then it's not the most important thing, because if it was, you would do whatever it took to get that. Let me ask you this. Because we see people, and unfortunately they get sick and they lose a bunch of weight. Do you want to be sick and see that on the scale? Would you be satisfied then? Well, no, I don't think I want to be sick. Okay, so then it's not the most important thing. The most important thing is the feeling that you're achieving by that goal weight. But here's the thing. If you're only focused on the goal weight, you're going to miss all of the stuff, like all the stuff that you say you want because of that 125 pound goal could already be happening. Yeah. You just don't see it because you're so hyper focused on something that really doesn't matter. Because the worst thing in the world, and I've experienced this with business, is I always thought money was the goal, right? Now I've made it, and boy, have I lost it. And both times, the only thing with like losing money, I was like, oh, what am I going to do now? How am I going to provide for my family? But when I had it, I didn't feel different. I wasn't like, oh my gosh, like I don't know. It wasn't the thing. It wasn't the satisfaction that everyone told me it would be.
Yeah.
It was always servicing people. It was always like giving back that made me feel good. And I think if more people, like you said, like our main mission is to provide. There's one story that always sticks out to me, and it's a personal one. But just to that point of giving back, and I think that's where people start to find their real purpose is we went to Monster Jam, me, my mom, and my brothers. And if you go to an event, those drinks, those hot dogs are like double what they should ever be.
Mm-hmm.
And I had just gotten my student credit card at the time. And I was, and my brothers, they were young at the time. They're like, Mom, can you buy us this and this? And she's like, no, honey, we can't do that. Cause it would have been like, and it was expensive. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it wasn't cheap. And so I'm like, oh, I'm going to go to the bathroom. And I go get the hot dog and the waters, and their faces were like, I was Santa Claus delivering presents. And it was such a good feeling that I was like, I don't know what just happened, but that's what I want my life to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, when people can feel that, but it doesn't have to be a gift. It could be them being the gift. It could be the person being it. Like, man, grandma was never around because she was always tired, but now she's with me all the time. Right. And so it's like that pinnacle that you talked about of serving. It's not just money. It's not just gifts. It's literally, you can be the person where you're just around.
Yeah.
And they love that.
Yeah. 100%, man. I mean, like the most fulfilling thing is like when you're looking in somebody's eyes and they feel defeated, they feel like the world's conspiring against them, but then you like breathe hope into them.
Yeah.
They see the big picture, and their eyes literally like totally change. Like there's this sheen that just pops in. There's this vibrancy that comes into their eyes. And like I've had the honor of taking part in that on a handful of occasions. And it's like, we are capable of so much more than we give ourselves credit for.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, man. People like society beats that out of us. People's self-doubt and self-sabotage beats it out of us. But like everything builds on some fundamental baseline principles. And if you just live in alignment with that pyramid structure, for instance, like you start to see the pieces come together. You start to see how everything works in unison, and that your ability to perform, provide, and just prosper like exponentially increases.
And it's getting people to focus on those little things inside of that pyramid, right? Where it's like, hey, let's have our wins revolve around that and not the outcome that we're achieving. And I've told people that I think a coach's main job is to inspire belief in people. But most people don't have belief because, evidence builds confidence. Without evidence, what's there to be confident about? We have a track record of failure. Well, it's because you've only been focused on one thing. But if you can go within that pyramid and you're pointing out like, well, hey, hold on a second. This part right here, this relationship, like whatever it is, that's the win. Or how you used to binge eat every time you had a stressful day at work and you didn't do that today, right? Like it's just those little things that build the evidence, and then you start to build that confidence, and then they come back to you with that look of like, I feel like I can actually do this.
Yeah, you got to get people to buy into the long game approach.
Yeah.
Like I'm big on that. Like that's why I hate like the shortcut to six pack thing. It's like, look, what do you want to do every single day for the rest of your life that can compound and build upon? Like when you get people to get excited about their day to day, the journey, the process, then like all the desired outcomes happen by default because they fall in love with the process. But if you're grinding away, and white knuckling it because you're just fixated on that finish line, you got to change your focus because there is no finish line. The finish line is death. So like, what can you sustain until then?
Yeah. And I love getting my people in, and I'm always trying to get them in for what I say, like a lifetime. Like I really want to be there for the rest of your life, however I can do that. And it's not just, I can't do that with nutrition alone, because if I do my job right, you're going to come and go, but that's not going to make the full transformation. Now it might, some people can sustain that, but a lot of people, especially just my clientele, because I call them my vintage ladies, and they're, most of them are 50 and older. And that's been fun in and of itself, because, I'm 32, I think. And so having to, I didn't choose them, they chose me. Right. And being able to work with them and just get them to look beyond the surface level things that they've been taught, because that population, it's just been the scale. You go to the doctor and they're like, oh, you're overweight, not taking into account anything else. Just you're overweight, And so getting them to change the way that they view themselves and at a foundational level, I think is huge.
100%, man. 100%. Well, it's definitely interesting to see your change in demeanor from first podcast to this one. First one was good too, but like I can see that light in your eyes now, so like
Yeah,
it's there, brother.
it's different, and I'm also, like I said, I'm excited about the other stuff too, and I was just doing it out of passion, and I think when you're authentically yourself, a lot of things end up happening. And I think even with food, that masks who someone authentically is. Like they're hiding their gifts because of their weight or their self-esteem or whatever it is. And all I did, like there was multiple times, and I don't know if this matters for the podcast or not, but there was multiple times where I was like, I'm probably going to give this feedback and I'm probably going to get fired. Even though I was an unpaid employee, I was like, I'm probably going to get, let go or not part of the team or whatever. And it changed the company, and they're like, no, we're getting back to this and connection and coaching. And it really made a difference. And I didn't do anything magical except authentically give my experiences. And I've been working with people for a long time. It's like, this is what I see. And it's like, you're right. Like, let's implement that. And then, it turns into, hey, do you want to be the head of this department? And do you want to do this? And hey, maybe we might do this in the future. And I'm just like, all because I was authentically myself.
Yeah, it's freaking exhausting wearing a mask.
Yeah.
And if you never put a mask on, you never have to take it off.
Yeah.
And that's just the way to live life right there. Like you got to be transparent. You got to be authentic. You got to be 100% unapologetically you.
Mm-hmm.
And there's different ways to be tactful while being you, but you should never have to put on a face or be someone you're not. Because then you're by default not going to be living your best self because it's not even yourself.
Yeah.
But kind of going back to coaching, like, there's a lot of technology right now. I mean, it's bewildering to me how much technology is. There's AI. There's just so much automation.
Mm-hmm.
But like good quality interactive coaching can never be replaced with any type of technology because like human connection is just that, human connection. And a good coach is defined by good human connection. So for that reason, I always feel like there's a place for good coaches. So we just got to keep fighting the good fight, man.
And I think it's a fight that's worth fighting, and
100%.
in the industry, I can always tell, and this, I mean, not to be that guy, but I can always tell when somebody's going to be a good coach and when they're not because of the questions that they ask, right? If it's all around money, if it's not around like impact or, hey, how do I coach this person better? Or how do I create results or whatever it is, hey, you're probably in this, we all want money, right? Like, but that's a product of you being a good coach. Like that's going to come because of the service that you provide. Yeah, you can probably trick a couple people, but you're not going to have retention. You're not going to have people want to work with you long-term. And eventually the word's going to get out and they're not going to want to come to you anyway. Anybody could get lucky, right? But how do you be a coach in the industry for a really long time and take that on? And there is a lot of people who are trying to automate and, it's just, I'll get back to you in 48 hours. And like, that's not what we're signing up for. Like as a coach, you have one of the most important roles, I would say in humanity, and things that have transformed my life have been coaches. Like I can pinpoint every single coach. Now it could be for good or bad, right? Like my high school coach telling me, hey, Joe, I think you're a D3 player at best. Well, you know what, coach, I'm going to try and prove you wrong, right? I needed that little motivation. And, or it could be Coach Steele who, transformed my life because when my son was born, we used to work out 5 a.m. every day. And this was in junior college for football, 5 a.m. every day. And I was like, hey, coach, I'm not going to make it. My son's being born at 7, got to be at the hospital at this time. He's like, cool, we'll work out at 3. It's like, all right. So that, work ethic. And it's just like even Jason Phillips, the one who runs Nutritional Coaching Institute, same thing. Like all he did was instill belief in me because we're sitting at a round table and we're going around the room and he's like, what do you want your business model to be? What do you want your business model? And then he gets to me. He goes, hold on, before you start talking, Joe, you've been coming to these meetings for the last 4 years. And every time you say you want to be closer to your son, but you still haven't done that. So I want to know, how's this time going to be different? And I was like, I don't know. But then, we talked about the business. I was like, yeah, this is what I see the process being. And he goes, that's the best application of the keto diet that I've heard. And that, like, it's just little coaches along the way that just instill that little belief that can take you to levels that you never thought were possible.
Yeah. Leveling up in life, man. Leveling up in life. I love it. Well, you ready to do some deadlifts?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Where do people go to find out more about you?
I mean, I don't have a website or anything. I have a Facebook group that has about 20,000 people in there. So that's KLD Weight Loss Secrets. Or you could just look me up on social media. I think Instagram is KLD Coach Joe, and then Facebook is Joe Harris, which there's probably a lot of Joe Harrises. So good luck finding that.
Nice. I'll put the link in there. Make it easy for
cool.
people. Always a pleasure, man. Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's a wrap, Chip. How long were we?
Just about an hour.
Nice.
Perfect.
Between both